We spend a lot of the time like with your beginners, and we've got a free intro course people can find at PCIPickleball.com. How do you teach beginners? Like, just hit the third shot low. And if you hit it fast and low, great, we call that a drive. If you hit it slow and low, great, we call that a drop. Something in between, perfect. But if you hit a low ball, let's say a paddle and a half over the net, you're probably going to be okay. To me, it sort of always felt like common sense, and that's kind of where PCI came from. I was like, frankly, we can do better.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Pickleball Connection podcast. I'm Barrett.
And I'm Danea.
And we're super excited to hang out with you today. Today, we have a treat. We have the legend, Mark Renneson, on with us. Mark, thanks so much for joining us. And Mark,
man, if I'm going to come to a podcast where people call me a treat and a legend, I'll come on your show as often as you want.
All right, we'll see you this time next week.
We'll see you next week.
But yeah, Mark, let's just get right into it. Tell the viewers, the listeners, a little bit about who you are, like as a person and in the pickleball space for people, maybe somebody that doesn't know.
Sure. I mean, I'm a tennis coach turned pickleball coach over a decade ago. Discovered pickleball, started coaching, traveling, running clinics and camps and doing private lessons. Started training coaches because I had some experience doing that in the tennis world, and started Pickleball Coaching International was the business that we did instructor training and coach certification through. And so now I spend all my time. I'm supposed to be an elementary school teacher. Now I spend all my time in pickleball, sometimes working with players and spending a lot of my time working with coaches. And I'm also currently the head of Pickleball Coach Education for Tennis Canada, who runs all the instructor certification currently in the country where I live.
Awesome. So would you say that's your passion, working with coaches? Would you rather work with a player, like be on court, or do you like working with coaches?
That's a good question. I like coaching. And in my experience, there's pickleball coaches, I think, fall into one of two categories. Either they are people who absolutely love the sport. They are obsessed. All pickleball, all the time, can't get enough. And they realize that coaching is a way to keep that connection with the sport. That's sort of one group of pickleball instructors I find. Then there's the other group who's like, yeah, the sport's fine, they like it. But what they really like, what really motivates them is coaching, is being part of other people getting better. And, if they were really great at basket weaving or, I don't know, designing clothing, then maybe they would do their teaching, do their coaching through that. But they happen to be really great at pickleball. And for me, I'm more in that latter category. I love playing pickleball, it's great. But I really like working with players and helping them improve in that sort of aha moment when they finally figure it out. And I really love doing that with instructors as well. So it's not so much coaches versus players, but being part of other people, like having success and learning stuff, that's really what gets me up in the morning.
I love that.
Yeah, that's awesome. You mentioned really briefly that you have a big hand in PCI, also known as Pickleball Coaching International, I believe. Go ahead and just give the listeners, if they've never heard that before, what is that? What is PCI?
Okay, so Pickleball Coaching International, we do coach education and instructor certification. So let's say you're already a pickleball coach and you say, you know what, I'd like to be better, right? I want to have new ideas. I want to find new ways to communicate with my players, or how to organize when I have weird numbers of people on the court, or I need some ideas for like lesson plans, or how can I help someone become a 4.0 if they're currently a 3.5, right? What are the things I can do? If I'm talking about technique, like, do I know a whole lot about technique, or am I just kind of winging it? So what we do on the coach education side at Pickleball Coaching International is we help coaches get better. Our tagline is even Pickleball Coaching International. We make good coaches even better. And it's providing tools and resources and opportunities. Sometimes it's through video, sometimes it's through audio, sometimes it's written stuff, sometimes it's lesson plans. We do live webinars. To make people who are currently coaching better. We also realize that there's a whole bunch of people out there who maybe want to get into coaching, but they're not quite sure where to start. right? And as we know, as pickleball evolves, people are expecting like a certain level of professionalism from their pickleball coaches. That wasn't the case a decade ago. But now, just like if you were going to take a tennis lesson or a golf lesson or any other kind of lesson, you'd expect your coach to have gone through some training, through some sort of certification process. And so we also offer that. And what's cool about what we do at Pickleball Coaching International is our instructor certification program is all online. So it doesn't matter where you live in the world, except Canada. We don't currently do it in Canada. It doesn't matter where you live in the world. You go to pcipickleball.com and you sign up. All the materials are sent to you right away. You go through the course, the training at your own speed, whenever it's convenient. And when you're ready, after you've passed the knowledge test, you go on a real court with real people. You set up your camera, you set up your phone, and you record 3 videos of you on the court, showing us that you can meet the standards. And one's a playing skill video and one's a teaching video. Can you talk about technical skills and demonstrate them well? And one is, can you take a group of players, set up, demonstrate, and run little pickleball drills for a small group and do it in a way that's safe and fun and effective. And so that's what we do at PCI, is we try to make it as accessible as possible for people who want to get into coaching, who want to go through instructor certification, and whether they live in the States, whether they live outside of the States, whether it's beautiful because people don't have to miss work or school. They don't have to travel and stay in hotels to take an instructor course. They don't have to cancel their pickleball tournament, right? So we want as many people who are keen about coaching to get into it. And that's what we offer at PCI.
That's really cool. Like, I don't know if you know this about us, Mark, but we were certified. We got certified, maybe 4 years ago. And it was difficult. Like, we had to drive 5 hours to go like do our in-person test. And like, they had this online portion in person. And it was like, it was incredibly inconvenient to have to like drive to an in-person kind of event. So the fact that this is all online is pretty cool.
Right.
Yeah. And one of the things I try to like make sure is clear, like, yeah, we try to make it convenient, but that doesn't mean that it's easy. And this is some of the feedback that we often get from people like, oh, this course was actually way tougher than I thought, right? Or some people initially think, oh, it's online, so it's going to be a rubber stamp or whatever. It's actually the opposite, right? And that sometimes surprises people. So yeah, it's not easy by any stretch, but it is convenient because exactly like you said, like you're spending 5 hours driving each way to go to this course. I mean, think about all the other ways you could be spending that time, whether it's in pickleball or pickleball coaching or just the rest of your life, right? Yeah. And so, and another nice benefit of this, which we didn't really think about at the start, is this allows us to reach people who are in underserved pickleball communities, right? So, for example, we just signed a deal with the Confederation of African Pickleball. So there's 26 countries in Africa where pickleball is a thing and it's growing. Well, there aren't that many instructor certification courses happening in Kenya or Rwanda. Right. And in many cases, honestly, those people don't have the resources in most cases to travel to the States where a course is happening. But instead they can say, oh, wait a second, Pickleball Coaching International, all the trainings here, we can access. It's been actually unbelievable. The Rwandan coaches have been some of the strongest we've seen so far. And so it's really gratifying that, yeah, we make it convenient for people who are in the States who, don't want to miss work or school or stay in hotels, but also to be able to reach communities where pickleball is still just emerging is like, frankly, like really cool.
Yeah. And really growing the game. And that's, a huge goal of, I think, of all of us.
Hey, have you heard of the new Play More app?
No. What is it?
Basically, the Play More app is like a stress-free scheduling app for pickleballers. So I don't know, we've struggled a lot in group text trying to organize play. You'll set it up and somebody will just like the text. And I'm like, does that actually mean you're coming or not?
Yeah, and it's like, you never know how many people you have, like what rating they are. It's kind of annoying.
It can kind of just be a nightmare to try to organize groups because group texts are just not fun. So basically the Play More app lets you send out invitations. You get an RSVP list. If somebody doesn't show, there's a wait list that will actually like put somebody right into.
No way.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Dang, that's awesome. What's it called?
It's called the Play More app. So you should download it at the App Store, or you can go to getplaymore.com if you want to look at it online. Yeah, I like that you hit on kind of the international side, because obviously this is PCI. It's not PCO. It's not Pickleball Coaching Online. It's Pickleball International. So it's really cool to hear about what's happening in Africa. And I've heard a lot of talks even in places like Malaysia, places like Thailand, it's growing everywhere. So the fact that you're able to, because it's online, take this other places and really grow the sport internationally is very cool. But you mentioned something. You mentioned that PCI is about making pickleball coaches better. And it's funny that you said that, because I actually had a question written down I was going to ask you, and I was going to say, Mark, what's the difference between a good coach and a great coach? And so you already said like what makes coaches better, or that PCI makes coaches better. But what would be like an actual practical kind of nugget? Like what would you look for if you have two coaches side by side? You're watching one coach a clinic on this court. You're watching one coach a clinic on another court. One's good, one's great. What's the difference in a good coach and a great coach?
I like that question. And I guess the caveat I would say here is there's not a whole lot of like high performance coaching going on in pickleball right now. So I'm not talking about the Catherine Perantos of the world and how we're going to coach her. Most of your listeners, I'm guessing, are the ones who are attending the clinic at their local pickleball club or community center, right? Whether it's beginner or novice or intermediate or even like advanced drill sessions, right? So that's kind of like the frame of reference I'm using. I think that really great coaches are able to be flexible. So as much as you have a lesson plan where you come and you show up and you're like, here's what I think we're going to work on today, really good coaches who are experienced and confident can see what's in front of them. And if necessary, they can change what it is that they were going to do. So let's say, for example, I came in today thinking, you know what, we were going to really concentrate on hitting high quality returns of serve. Right. And whether that means controlling the depth or controlling the height or controlling the direction that you're hitting them, that's what I think we're going to work on. But as we start to do our lesson, I kind of do an assessment. I was like, oh, wait a second. These guys are pretty good at that already. But you know what? Their serves are pretty weak. They just kind of get them in. They don't seem very thoughtful. They're not very tough. A really strong coach, I think, is able to not only see that, but then pivot in a way that doesn't disrupt the whole lesson. In fact, there's a good chance that the players don't even know that pivot happened. Whereas less experienced coaches might be reluctant to do that because, that's not the lesson plan I made.
Right.
I think another example would be coaches who keep things active, right? I've seen lessons before where the coach is talking for 15 minutes.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
People want to hit a ball, right? They don't want to hear about the accomplishments of the coach or all the things they do. They want to hit a ball. So getting people playing quickly and keeping people active, I think, is important. Always scanning for safety. And this is sometimes, when people fail their initial evaluation with PCI is because, guys, there was like a ball in the court. Hey, the basket was too close. Hey, you had players crossing over the middle, getting in the way of someone else, and you didn't address it. So constantly scanning for safety is really important. I think another thing that I would say, maybe this last one, I'll let you ask more questions, is really effective coaches explain the why. They don't just say, hey, today we're going to work on our backhand slice return. Mm-hmm. Right. Today we're going to work on our third shot drop, right? They explain the why. And that why is always like, it's not just why because it looks pretty, right? It's a why that's connected to the game. It has a tactical connection. Hey, wouldn't you like to make it tougher for your opponents to hit a great third? Well, guess what? If you put a lot of backspin on the return, you can do that. Hey, wouldn't you love to give yourself a little more time to get up to the net so you can be like really scary up there? Great. If you play the ball with a backspin, it's going to float a little longer and that would give you more time. Right. And by adding that little tactical connection, that little why, it's so powerful because more people buy into it and they're working on the skill, not just because you're the coach and that's what you said we're working on, but because they understand how it's going to help them be a better player.
Yeah, it's really interesting that you mentioned that. You may have just put language to, something that was in my mind, trying to figure out, what makes a good coach versus a great coach. Danea and I actually did a 2-on-1. So it was us two with a coach in Orlando. And it was a really strong lesson, probably one of the stronger lessons we've ever had. And the instructor kind of had me filming Danea while they were working together. Then we would swap. He would hand the phone to Danea, say, go watch this film. And then he would start working with me. And then we were kind of like, basically like we had a person always kind of catching the feedback on camera. And then he was making adjustments. But we walked away from that lesson. And I remember at the beginning of the lesson, he was able to kind of look at Danea, hit a couple balls. And all of a sudden he was like, okay, you're hyper flexible. You move like this. He was able to just diagnose, some unique things and pivot, kind of like you said, mid lesson. Okay, we're going to actually work on this because this is what I'm seeing. And I think that you kind of put language to it. I think that I was like, why was that such a good lesson? But yeah, that's really interesting, thinking about all the things that you just mentioned. And obviously you've probably seen a wide gamut of, lessons or clinics maybe that don't go really well versus like, wow, this coach really crushed that. So yeah, it's really interesting to get that perspective.
Yeah, I think being, oh, sorry, I was going to say, I think being flexible is important. I think it's also really important for anyone who's doing some coaching is to see your players in action. It's one thing. They might come and say, oh yeah, my backhand's horrible, or oh, my volleys are weak, or oh, I keep popping up dinks. It's important to see them in action, because how people play when they're sort of in a game-like situation where they feel that pressure and it's kind of at game speed is often quite different than what happens when, they're just warming up or there's nothing on the line. So we use at PCI this play, practice, play model all the time, where it's like, hey, once you've warmed up and hit some balls, you're going to play. It's going to be a real game. And whether it's skinny singles because it's a private lesson, whether it's the two of you against me and you're only allowed to hit to half my court, I want to see you in action. And then once I see you in action, I can make those observations. Then we can say, oh, hey, here's something I noticed. Like, hey, Danea, every time the ball was toward your backhand, you avoided it and played a forehand instead. Did you notice that? Oh, hey, Barrett, every time you hit a serve, like it went right down the center of the court. Was that on purpose? And so being able to see, because we don't want to make just a bunch of good practicers.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
You don't want to be just good practicers. You want to be good players.
Yeah, that's good.
But I need to see you play so we can get an idea of what it is to work on. And I need to see you play again to see if you can apply it.
Right. Yeah, that's super valuable. Kind of along the lines of like coaching philosophy, I'm like a little curious about this because you started like coaching what year for pickleball?
Oh my God, I was 15. Pickleball was 11 years ago.
Yeah,
but I've been a tennis coach. Yeah, I did my first tennis instructor course when I was 15. So now, it's been, is that possible? It's been 29 years that I've been coaching.
See, that's wild. So you've been in coaching for a long time, but you've also been in coaching the game of pickleball a very long time comparatively to obviously right now in 2025. I'm really curious, like in regards to even how the game has changed in the past 11 years, with paddle technology, game strategy, because like I said, we did a certification course 4 years ago. And I'm like, the game is so different now. Like I would just not teach how I learned, and how I learned to teach in that certification 4 years ago. So I'm curious, like with PCI, have you just restructured a lot of like how you would teach the game to fit where paddle technology has gone, where how you're seeing more players play?
I think I'm trying to say this in a way that doesn't sound like it's like gloating or boasting.
Go for it.
No, go.
One of the things I did before we did the coaching stuff, and I was just like running clinics. We did a lot of like myth busting. Like this was at Third Shot Sports. You can still see all the articles and stuff or YouTube videos at thirdshotsports.com. Like a lot of myth busting. Like why are we playing third shot drops? Mm-hmm. Like if I'm asking my mother, right, who doesn't have a racket skill background, to play third shot drops, it's so easy to miss it, either low or high. If you do miss it, you're going to lose.
Yeah.
And if you do hit it well, you've caused zero trouble for your opponents. It's a slow moving ball right at them. So like, what are we doing teaching people to play third shot drops who don't have these racket skills? And so very early on, we did a whole bunch of myth busting around that. Similarly with dinks, you go out all the time. And I know other courses like, it's all about the dinking, start close and back up. You watch a bunch of like 3.0s. You do all this dinking practice. I guarantee any of your listeners go out and watch a bunch of 2.5s or 3.0s or 3.5s go play pickleball at your local park. There's not a dink to be seen.
Right.
It's true.
Right. Exactly.
So what are we doing? What are we doing as coaches working with our players on something that they don't need at their level? And I've always kind of like had that. And I think, to be honest, that's why I think PCI is a bit of a differentiator between some of the other programs, is because it's not about what is some idealized version of how you're supposed to play pickleball. That's ridiculous. It should be about what is it that my players need to be able to play better right away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and so that's kind of always been my approach as a coach. And now that we're doing coach education, it's always been kind of that approach as well.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's so valuable. Like I said, I just feel like how we were coached to coach. I was like, this doesn't make sense. Because like you said, 3-5, 3-3-0, 2. Nobody dinks. Nobody hits a drop shot.
I remember when I taught my mom to play. I did the classic, what I was taught. We started at the kitchen and backed up, but we spent most of our time at the kitchen because she was really just getting the hang of it. And then she told me that she went out and played, and she played with a bunch of her friends who were former tennis players. My mom wasn't a former tennis player, and they just banged the ball at her, and she was like, it's so hard.
She was like, nobody's dinking.
What do I do?
Looking back, I'm like, I would have absolutely flipped the script with her and had her work on a ground stroke or a drive or something, or even just a 60% kind of like get the ball above the net, below the shoulders, and just
keep it low. Just keep it low, right? Like we spend a lot of the time like with your beginners, and we've got a free intro course people can find at PCIPickleball.com. How do you teach beginners? Like just hit the third shot low. And if you hit it fast and low, great. We call that a drive. If you hit it slow and low, great. We call that a drop. Something in between, perfect. But if you hit a low ball, let's say a paddle and a half over the net, you're probably going to be okay. It's like, to me, it sort of always felt like common sense. And that's kind of where PCI came from. I was like, frankly, we can do better. So, you know what, guys? I know we have to wrap up shortly, but can I send you both the access so you can check out Pickleball Coaching International and you can take a look and see? And because so we'll send you that because I think you'll like it. And I think any of your audience, if they're looking for something that feels like a little more like student centered, that's what about people need to play better rather than how do I take my 2.0 mother and make her play like Catherine Parenteau, right? Something a little more realistic, then I think they might like what we have at Pickleball Coaching International. Like I said, there's a whole free intro program.
Yeah, definitely send that over to us. That would be awesome. And like you said, we are kind of going to wrap up because we're running out of time. I wish we had more time because we probably could have talked for an hour easily. But maybe we can have you on in a future episode as well. But I'm interested for all the listeners and viewers, if you are a coach and you're listening, let us know in the comments below. I'm very curious. And let us know kind of how you got certified, your journey. Was it hard? Was it easy? And if you're thinking about becoming a coach, be sure to check out PCI. You can find them online, Pickleball Coaching International. You can find them on Instagram, other socials as well. And Mark, thanks so much for joining us on today's episode of the Pickleball Connection podcast. And we'll see you guys on the next one.